XY logically not be.
ಎರಡು ಫೋಟೋ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೆ.
Wow. Hi, Samir.
ಇವತ್ತು ನಂಗೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಟ್ಟವ್ರ ಲಗ್ನಪತ್ರಿಕೆನ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಕಳ್ಸೋರ ಮದುವೆ ಬನ್ನಿ ಅಂತ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ನಂದು ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ರಿಸ್ಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡೆಲ್ಲ ಮದುವೆಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬರಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್ ಫೋನ್ ಇದ್ರಿ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಕುಟಿ ಕುಟಿ.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Samir.
Yeah, hi.
Good evening.
Yeah, what was that last class we did? I forgot completely. What was the last session we had? Do you remember anyone?
Yeah. So we did database labs. Sir.
Okay. I think we tested. I think SQL and
SQL server only. So MySQL and SQL we have done.
yeah, MySQL and
Linux
SQL server we have tested. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay. Did you guys practiced those labs in your free time?
We have tried Linux machines, sir, but not Windows.
Okay. You tested in already in the Linux. Very good. Okay. Let me open up. I think in database there is Elastic Cache one database is there, which I need to explain. One second, let me open up AWS Management Console and share my screen. Just give me a minute. Okay, I think you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me go to the RDS. Okay, it's opening. One second, let me have a quick review so that we all are in the same page. So we are done with EC2, we are done with network, we are done with storage, we are done with database, we are done with IAM, we are done with DB, Elastic Cache need to start, And did we done Route 53?
No, sir.
And
No.
have we done ELB?
No.
No.
Okay.
So network, I doubt. Network,
network
VPC. VPC, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Not done?
No, just check with the others. I feel
No,
like
no,
it's
we
not-
have done, sir.
Oh, we didn't do.
VPC
is
Network, is it done or no?
No,
No,
I
sir.
guess.
No,
Completed.
sir.
No,
Network.
no.
No,
Network
it's
not done,
done.
sir.
Not done.
Sir,
Okay.
network is VPC only, right?
Yeah, VPC, VPN,
Yeah, it
peering.
is completed, sir.
Sir.
So I think for few people who joined middle, I think for them network is not done, if I remember. Maybe I think so. Some people might not have been completed with networking. So we will take this session separately. And okay. Route 53 we have not done. Load balancer we have not done. Auto scaling.
No.
Oh, no.
Okay. And CloudWatch,
No.
No.
CloudFront.
No, sir.
No.
Okay. Okay. 1 second. CloudTrail, Thread Advisor. Done. Few done. Few pending. Okay. I'm just putting the notes, okay, so that we'll get an idea. Okay.
Sir, I
done.
think, sir, I think network for the people who started it in the weekday batch, it was not done. Who were initially from the Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday batch. It
Yeah.
was not done.
Yeah. That's why I kept it for few done, few pending. Okay.
Okay, okay.
I am done. Database. RDS. Equal. Elastic cache need to start. Okay, so one is that elastic cache we need to start, and Route 53 need to start, ELB we need to start, auto scaling we need to start, CloudWatch, CloudFront, CloudTrail. So one second. Pending.
Sir, I have one suggestion. Can we go through the learning paths? If
Yeah,
you can
it is through learning path only.
if you can
Yeah, 1 second, I will show.
अरे बड़ी ऊंची मुझे तो अच्छा लगा थे इतना कमर्शियल किया मैं तो बेचैन हो गया मुझे छोड़ दी ये तो जाओ बैठ के खाते मुझे तो खूब खाएंगे हम एक निकाल लो रात अरे क्यों नहीं खाना हम तो तैयारी कर देते हैं खाने को उसमें
So this part is done. Okay. And in the second part, that is about network. So in this EC2, it's already done. Okay. And this networking already done for few people. The people who joined in the last, they missed this thing. So which I need to cover for them, networking. Okay. Learning path 2. Now learning path 3, if I go here, this is where I need to start the load balancer and CloudWatch and auto scaling. Okay. But directly load balancer, you will not understand without having a database knowledge. That's the reason I started this database and here so that you are clear with those things. So if you see here, this we already done. Okay. So here there is very less topics are there. So only S3 and is there, no EFS, nothing is there. So I have covered all those things. I have covered storage gateway, EFS. There's so many things which is not there of this part of the course also I have covered it. Okay. So now in the learning path 5, we have this cloud trial. These things are there, no? Elastic Cache. These all are what? Other services. With other services means it is not the concept. It is just an overview. And database services are something which is the major thing. So in this, we already covered EFS. We already covered storage gateway. We already covered about DynamoDB. We already RDS we completed. Read replica, we understood the theory. Snapshots, how to create the snapshot in RDS and restoring the snapshot. It is just which when we do the Elastic Cache Lab, I can show that multi-agent deployment. When you go to the database, creation, how do we do the multiple agent deployment, and the exam tips on RDS, which we'll be covering when we do the interview model. So this part is what which we are covering now. Okay. Now coming to this
Yes.
aid other services. If you see these other services, no, this is just a theory, but I don't want to limit with that. I want to take you through the labs also, like Elastic Cache and other things also. I want to show you, and this DevOps, Elastic Map Reduce, these all are overview concepts, not the major thing. So the major thing is this one. So this part, which we already done, learning path 1. And the second part is about EC2 and networking. In this networking, for few people, we need to start, which is pending. So we'll start that. And for the learning path 3, if you go here, load balancer, auto scaling, and CloudWatch, I am going to start this. This is learning path 3. And learning path 4 is about S3, which you already learned, and Route 53. So why I have taken this path? The reason is that without having a database knowledge, if I directly talk about load balancers, you will have a zero knowledge. Okay. So that's the reason I have first completed the database. Now, when I explain you about Route 53, then you'll understand. The basic idea is that I will show you the architecture diagram, how it will go. So, so if you take one server, okay, let's assume inside this server, you install one application. Okay. Now, this application backend will be connected to, what is this we call? We call it as DB. Okay. And this server is running in something called as EC2, right? DB. Now, here you will have DNS. After DNS, you will have load balancer. What is that? ELB. So before that, internet. So any user wants to connect via internet, he will connect to DNS, then he'll connect to load balancer, then he'll connect to EC2. This EC2 will be talking to the background to the database. So this part we covered. EC2, you already have a knowledge. Now we need to understand about load balancers, DNS, and for the EC2, we have a functionality called as auto scaling. So if I directly explain you about DNS and load balancer without having the database knowledge, you will be in confusion. Okay, so how it connectivity will happen and everything. Now you know the database. Now you know how the application works. Now you know the communication between the application and database, right? That day we have seen port number 3306 was opened, right, in the database. Remember in the DB lab we have done it.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So you people know now the communication between server to database. Now you will understand from DNS load balancer to the server. So we are coming from back to front so that you are having the clarity. Okay, that is what we did. So in the database, we need to understand about one topic that is called as elastic cache, which is not related to the relational database or non-relational database, which comes under other service as an overview. But I am going to explain that so that our database part is, you have a complete clarity. Then we will come and learn about this learning path called as 3. That is nothing but, what is that we'll learn? This part. Okay. Load balancer, CloudWatch, and auto scaling. So today and tomorrow, means today and Thursday, we'll complete ELB, we'll complete auto scaling, and we'll complete CloudWatch. This, if we complete this learning path 3, then we will be left with the last learning path of 5 with other services and networking. So for the people who has missed networking, are you guys okay to attend on 21st of Monday, people who missed a networking session? Or if again somebody want to revise it, no problem, they can again join. But 21st, are you guys okay to attend networking?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Samir.
I will
Yes,
schedule
Samir, we are
again.
okay.
No, if everyone want to again rejoin
What
for
time?
networking, I don't have any problem. Again, if somebody want to revise, but I will schedule it
Time.
same time, 7:30.
Sure.
Okay. So network
Yeah.
session, we will put it on 7:30 on Monday. I will send a link to everyone who have already heard. If they don't want to continue, they can drop. Who has not heard, pakka for sure, you join again that session. Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now let us start the DB. So now you all people are aware about what is RDS, and let me just go back to the console and give you some background knowledge what we covered, and again we will come back to the elastic cache, and then we'll start the integration and understanding about Route 53 and which we have the third thing that is called as load balancer and auto scaling and DNS part. Okay. So let us come here, and that day what we did, we created a database, remember? So in AWS, so we went here and we said create database, and then we selected any one database in RDS, that is Amazon Aurora or anything. So what we did is that we selected MySQL, and one second, I think refresh. Okay, create database. Just a second, it is loading. Scroll down, called as MySQL.
Samir, what are we doing now?
So I'm just few options which we need to see. Last week we did the RDS database 2 labs. One is we did
Windows
a lab
and
of
Ubuntu.
SQL, and we did another lab of SQL Server, MySQL and SQL Server, right?
Yes.
In that there are something called snapshots and other things are there. So I'm just going to explain that. Okay.
Okay.
So that, we are clear with database, and then we will discuss about one overview topic called as elastic cache. Okay, this one. Okay, once this is done, then our database is done. Then we are coming back to the load balancers and other things. Before going to load balancer, whatever is in the database, I will close it so that there's no doubt in the database. Okay.
Sure.
So we went here that day and we selected the MySQL version, and then we are given a name DB DB01 or something XYZ. Then we scroll down and we given the password, master password, welcome 01. I'm giving the same password, welcome 01. And instance class, I already told you, depends upon your requirement, you can select. And I think I will go with the basic one, burstable class, T2 micro, very small, T2 small. Okay, I'm going with T2 small, right? And storage type, what you want, allocated, how much GB you need. So I think this is because you selected a higher version. If you go with free tier, by default, it will only select, you don't need to do anything. So free tier automatically selects the 20 GB storage, threshold is selected. So see, remember here, multi-agent deployment, multiple availability zone, deployment. So multiple availability zone as of now, for the free tier, it is not available. If you're going with the production, then you can use this multiple availability zone deployment. And then we selected VPC, public and security group, and password authentication we did, and we said create a database. The moment we say create database, the database got created that day. And what we did after that, we installed a Linux operating system, and then we installed a MySQL client. If you remember that day, what we did, right? So after the database gets created, you will get the endpoint gets created in the database from where you people can connect. Right now, endpoint has not got created because still it is in the process of creating the database. And what is that I told you? You need to remember about this security group. Do you remember I told you that this security group is nothing but communication? For the people who don't have any knowledge on the networking, I will explain you what is this very easily. There are two things in networking, okay? In AWS, one is called as security group, and second one is called as NACL. What is this? These are called as firewalls. What is this? Firewalls. In AWS, if anybody asks you what are the types of firewalls we have two types of firewalls. One is called as security group. Second one is called as NACL. Remember this, in AWS, if anybody asks you what are the types of firewalls we have, there are two types of firewalls are there. One is security group. Second one is NACL. Security group is nothing but server level firewall. Okay. And NACL is nothing but network level firewall. There are two types of firewall: server level firewall, network level firewall. Now you will ask me, sir, what exactly means a firewall? I hope everyone knows. Firewall is nothing but which protects you from all kinds of, unwanted or attacks for your organization when it comes to the IT communication, information technology communication, right? So now you will ask me, like, what exactly the server level firewall means, what exactly the network level firewall means. So basically, server level firewall is nothing but operating system level, means on the virtual machine level firewall. Okay, network level firewall means, which is nothing but subnet level, means IP address level firewall. So let me give you an example. So let's assume there is Windows server, Linux server, database server, SAP server. So many servers are there. Different servers are there. So one server, Linux server, you want, let's assume you don't want everyone to communicate through Linux. You want only certain ports to be opened. Let's assume, what do you mean by port? First of all, you need to understand. Port is nothing but a communication channel. In IT, whenever every operating system or an application or anything want to communicate, it will only communicate through ports. Ports matlab communication channels, right? Now you all people are connected to Zoom. Zoom is connected via which port? 443, because you are connecting through a browser, web browser, right? And through an application which is Zoom application, which requires to connect to the internet, right? So basically through website you are connecting. 80 and 443 are basically nothing but HTTP and HTTPS ports, right? So anybody want to communicate through a website, it is basically HTTP and HTTPS. DNS, what is the port number of DNS?
53.
Very good. What is the port number of ICMP? Pardon?
Not sure.
Okay. ICMP port number. Let us first quickly do the port number check for everyone. So don't forget this. This is very important for your interview. Okay. ICMP port number. Anybody?
7.
Pardon? 7. Very good.
7.
Very good. Very good. What is the port number of FTP?
21, 22.
23.
Very good. 21. Very good. Very good answer. And what is the port number for DNS? You already told, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the port number for SMTP?
It's 25.
25. SMTP
25.
port number is 25. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the port number for POP? POP.
POP 3 is 110.
Very good. And what is the port number for IMAP?
IMAP is 143.
Very good. IMAP is 993. We will use for if it is SSL TLS. In general, it is 143. Okay. So
Yeah.
you need to remember all these port numbers. So ports are nothing but communication channels. Okay. So if you want to, in every computer, right, if you want to block any ports or open any ports, you need to remember. So let's assume I will ask you a question. Now you only can tell me what is that port numbers will do. Let's assume I have blocked SMTP in one server. What will be the impact to that user when he logs in? If I say SMTP denied, what will be the impact?
Message will not save my file.
Yes, you are right. So it is basically email. Emails will be a mail will be a problem, right? And what will happen if HTTP is blocked to a user, means to the server?
You're not able to browse.
He will not be able to browse. So remember here, server level security group means in the server, if I block the ports, then inside that particular server, that person will not be able to access that particular application. Let's assume in one of the server, I have blocked HTTP. Then what will happen once he go and types, once he go to the browser and when he type www.xyz.com, it will say page cannot be displayed. Why? Because somebody has blocked from your server not to open that, not to communicate to the port number called as 80 or 443, whichever the port you have blocked it, right? So server level is called as security group. What is NACL? Now let's assume there are so many servers are there. Now I have blocked port number HTTP at network level. Now what will happen? What will be the impact?
They will not give us the access to browse anything.
So remember here, when you block in the network level, if your server level it is open also, nobody can communicate because they have blocked it in the network level. So in the easiest way is that in an apartment, there are two types of doors are there. One is that your flat door. Second one is that complete apartment main door. Okay. If somebody want to come to my house, okay, and he has a permission to come to my house. If security guard is stopped, what will happen?
He'll not be able to enter.
So stopping at the security guard level is called as NACL. Stopping at my house gate is called as
security group.
Understood the difference?
Yes.
Okay, so we have only two firewalls. Okay, security group and NACL. So when you configure the database, you need to make sure that what is that you're trying to do in the VPC. You want that server, whatever you're creating, only the server level you want to block, or you want to open, or the complete network level you want to open. So in detail, you will learn when we discuss about networking topics, people who have not completed networking. But here, to understand in the database, we just need to make sure that on the database side, our ports are open. So what port need to be opened in the database? So remember here, if I go here, click on RDS, right? In the RDS, so if the people are not able to communicate, only the problem will happen is that the security side, you need to see if there is any ports got blocked or any issue is there. If the ports are not blocked, everything is fine, then absolutely there will not be any kind of a challenge. Now, how do I get to know that? Once I go to RDS, if I go to my database instances, right, there it will show me, if I click on DB01, there it will show me the port number details. If I scroll down here, can you see this? 3306. So if any person want to communicate, you need to make sure that from your security group, this port number is allowed so that they can communicate. Clear? Okay. Now, actions. When I click an action option, we are getting so many things. Stop, reboot, delete, read replica. What is read replica? I already explained you that day in the theory.
A copy of DB is saved somewhere else, but like it can be used as a backup.
Perfect answer. So it is basically one more copy which will get created. And what will happen is that at the time of a disaster or any issue, we can use that copy to make it as an online copy. Then second thing we have it, take a snapshot. When I say take a snapshot, what exactly it will do is that it will take the copy of that particular database instance identifier. So whatever the name, so DB01, right? I will say ABCD. If I say snapshot, what will happen? It will take the snapshot of that particular database. Okay. So ABCD is nothing but the database snapshot. So once I have a snapshot, if I go to actions, and so right now the snapshot is not got created. Once it is done, you have an option here. You have an option of restoration of the snapshot. You have the option of copy snapshot. You have an option of share snapshot. You have an option of migrate, or you want to export to Amazon S3 and use it locally, or you want to delete the snapshot. So you will have all the options what you can do for the snapshot. Right now, snapshot is getting created. It will take time to create. So you can see that already there is an snapshots are there in the background. So if you see here, if I click on actions, you get all the options. You can restore, you can copy, you can share. When I say copy means what? What it will tell is that where do you want to copy this snapshot? So let's assume I have a machine in Bombay now. Now you want to copy this snapshot, this ready-made snapshot, and you want to use it in, let's assume, Singapore. I will go and select the Singapore location. And what will happen is that snapshot will get loaded in Singapore. Okay, so if I say Asia Pacific, then this will be loaded in Singapore. Now, what is the advantage here? Suppose if there is some problem with my database and I want to use the database in Singapore, if I have a snapshot, then what I can do is that I can create the machine by using the snapshots. In EC2, do you remember where does the snapshots get stored? Interview question. Where does the snapshots get stored?
S3 bucket.
S3 storage. Don't forget that. S3 storage. Very good. So your snapshots will get stored in S3. So here also the snapshots, whatever you're creating, it's a database snapshots. Whenever you want to restore, you can restore from S3 bucket. So here you're getting an option, copy snapshot. Means if you want to use the same SQL database in some other region, you have that option. And apart from it, you also have share snapshot. What do you mean by sharing a snapshot? What exactly it will happen? So basically nothing but it is the same concept of your EC2 snapshot. There is no difference. So what does it mean? Suppose, let's assume I have a database and I did so much of work around with the database and I want to make this snapshot available to some other account, AWS account ID. Like for example, if I click on Riaz, can you see this account number 98353? Can you see this 98353-850-1163?
Yes.
Called as an account ID. If I want, let's assume I want to give this to Vikas. What I should do? I should add the Vikas ID. And I can, when the moment I give the Vikas number and click on add, what will happen? That ID will be that this particular snapshot will be given to Vikas. Means once he logs in his snapshot, he will be able to see this snapshot, which has been shared to Vikas.
Can we export this information onto a notepad or something?
Pardon? I didn't understand.
Can we export the snapshot on a notepad or a HTML file?
You can export to S3.
No. I want to know if we can export it to an HTML file or a notepad.
I didn't understand. What does it mean?
Like, readable format. Can we export it to a readable format?
No. See, remember here, this snapshot is what? This is the exact copy of your database. Okay, so this is basically it is an instance snapshot, like whatever the instance is there. No, it's the same copy of the snapshot, which is like a volume. So you cannot copy as a file or anything. That is only possible if it is some kind of a program or a code, but this is not that, right? It's an instance. Basically what's happening in here, RDS means, RDS is nothing but you are creating the machine. So if you remember here, when I clicked on DB instances, if you remember, we have selected instance image type. We have not selected only the volume. If you had seen the lab which we have done it when we created it, we have selected the instance.
Yes,
type.
yes.
So instance, this is the one we have selected, which is nothing but a machine. Okay.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Okay. So those things you can do. You can create a snapshot, you can delete a snapshot, you can restore a snapshot. All these are the options which you can do. So I will explain you a few more options what you have. So when I go to the snapshots, if I go to the RDS, on the left side, you'll find the snapshots. If I click on the snapshots, so here you have an option, right? Restore snapshot, copy snapshot, share snapshot, and delete snapshot. So what do you mean by migrate a snapshot? So basically there is one service for migrating the snapshot. So so there is one database service we have, that is basically you will learn when you get into the next level of AWS. There is a service called as DMS. DMS means database manager service. Basically, if you want to do any kind of a migration work, or if you want to do any kind of upgrade work, Amazon is giving you this service called as DMS. If I go to the services, so there is an option called as migration and transfer. Can you see this? In this, there is a service called DMS, database migration service. So with the help of this service, you can migrate the database from on-premises to AWS, AWS to on-premises. All those options you can do from this service. So coming to the RDS. So when I come back to the RDS, so the snapshots, you are aware about the snapshot stores in S3 and automated backups. So by default, backups will happen regularly. So whenever you create any database, it does the backup automatically. So you no need to do any kind of a backup schedule. If you want to do the backups manually, it is up to you, but automatic backups are by default activated. No, you will say that you want to do manually the backups or anything on database or on the server or anything, then Amazon is having a service called as AWS backup. Okay, with this service you can do, you can automate it, and you can also do the manual work, like where you can centralize manage all the backups. Means you want to do the backup for the servers, you want to do the backup for the storages or for the databases. Amazon is giving you a specific separate service where you can do the centralized backup management, like how you have the backup team, right, who does the backup and all those things you can do. You can also define the your backup policies, how you want to do, how you want to create, what kind of a jobs you want to run. Everything you can do through this AWS backup. If you think that you don't want to go with it, means you don't want to go with the AWS by default automated backup, you want to do manual, then you have an option called as AWS backup, which you can do. Along with that, along with this RDS feature, Amazon is also giving you a feature called as Elastic Cache, which I told you, right, which is very, very important feature, which is this feature is basically comes under NoSQL database. So cache database we say. So what is this Elastic Cache? You need to understand. So Elastic Cache actually has two types. One is called as Redis and one is called as Memcache. Basically this is called as in-memory data store service. What is that is called? In-memory data store service. So basically what it do is that it will improve the performance of your web applications by retrieving the information from in-memory caches. Means whenever your websites or web-based applications, whoever are using the existing database, if those application performance need to be faster, or it should use very faster service, or it should get the faster response, so you have this service called as Elastic Cache. So this service is responsible, basically this is designed, the mechanism is designed for the caching purpose. So what it will do is that it will increase the existing application performance very, very fast, so that you will not be, you will not have to, you will not, regret on the load time of your usage on your applications. So any major application, web-based applications, you can use this kind of a caching solution, so which will cache all kinds of memory metrics, which will cache all kinds of client metrics, and it will provide you the speed on your existing application. So this Elastic Cache basically comes up with two types. One is called as Radis and one is called as MEM. So what is this Radis and MEM is that Radis cache, basically Radis, we say it is nothing but remote dictionary server, which the definition we call, it is basically an open source product before. Like now also we have an open source also, Radis open source is there. So Amazon is using for in-memory key value data store as a database. Means for caching purpose, Amazon is giving you this option. For real-time applications like gaming applications, advertisement applications, financial applications, healthcare applications, IoT applications, if these kind of an application which has a session management, which has a gaming management, which has a chat and messaging management, which has a real-time analytics management, for those kind of an application, this Elastic Cache will be useful. Okay. Now Radis, Memcache, two are the same things only. Means both will do the same kind of stuff, but only the difference between Radis and Mem is that the basically Memcache, which is nothing but it works with a concept called as distributed memory cache, and Radis cache will work with the in-memory cache. So that's the technical difference, you can say, but both are meant for non-relational NoSQL based solution, so which also can use for the improve the performance, such as MySQL, Postgres, Aurora, Oracle, and all those things you can use. So as I told you, the benefits is that in-memory data store, so basically ongoing on-demand application you can use like PostgreSQL, Cassandra, MongoDB, but those kind of things you can use. Flexible data structures and easy to manage, and it supports Java, Python, PHP, C, C++, C#, and all those native languages are supported, and it is supported all kinds of clients for the developers who want to do. Replication and persistence is availability is there, high availability is there, and all those are the best, I can say that where you can use it. Now if you're looking for use cases, where do I use this as I told you, for the caching purpose. So now if I tell you what do you mean by caching purpose or these things, see nowadays how many people know chat, you all people use some application nowadays, you'll get chat support,
chatbot bot services.
Chatbot services, right?
Yeah.
Or in the background which requires message queuing and other things, right? Or else how many people know about gaming leaderboards? Have you heard about gaming leaderboards? Like games, right? When they do a real-time gaming, they use the scoreboards on the sessions in the background, right? So based on that, ranking list will be coming. If you
In cricket
games and all you use.
yes, okay. And also you can use in media streaming, like all these OTT platforms is there, no online, what is this, Netflix, or you can say what is it, Amazon Prime, all these technologies. Machine learning technologies also, robotic technologies also they use, real-time analytics. For all these kind of technologies, right, this elastic cache is very, very much useful. So this cache comes up with these two types of technologies. So elastic cache is nothing but a web service which helps to improve the performance of web applications by allowing fast managed in memory caches, which are used to support your disk-based databases. So how does it increase the performance? As I told you, since memory is order of magnitude, so it is loaded internally to your internal cache. So what it will do is that it will support infrastructure, it will support software and patch management. So all kinds of people, whoever using to build all sort of systems, it will give a faster and easiest response for the elastic cache. And developers who are working on extensive workloads, mathematical calculation, elastic cache will be one of the best solution. So which supports both Memcache and Redis cache. Application which requires a huge data structure, they can use this Redis cache. And as I told you, leaderboard, counting, session management, tracking, all these are the use cases which you can use for your elastic cache. By default, free tier 750 node hours is free for your Redis cache. So this is basically, elastic cache, what Amazon is providing. And there is one more database is there, which is again overview, which is not there in our course. I'm just telling you, Amazon Neptune. So this is basically for the graph database. Okay. Now you might say that, why is there these many databases? Why can't we use one database? Means there are so many databases are there, right? Everything they have isolated from one database to one database. So Amazon Neptune is what? It is basically a graph database. So if you want to build or run an application and you want to define any graphs, usage parameters, like there are so many applications, right? So, okay. In this particular batch, anybody invest in stock market money?
Yeah.
Okay. If you people, if you are invested in stock market or anybody, do you know about Upstock or
Zerodha?
Or Geoda? Yeah. Anybody heard about it?
Yes, Zerodha.
Right? So
Yes.
these are nothing but these are trading softwares, right? So when you click on any of the stock, there you will get an option called charts.
YTD data, year to date.
Yes, the charts are there. No, that's which will go up, which will go down. It will give you the trend analysis of 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years. If you get a time, just install Upstock. If people who don't have knowledge, it's a basically trading software. So you can see your analysis of your stock, how it is performing and everything. That capture, that particular complete capture of that particular stock happens through a graph-based solution in the background. That is nothing but your Neptune is one of the database which can be used for those kind of scenarios. Okay. Or in another way, if you ask me one more use case or example, any kind of a fraud detection, if you want to do, like, do you remember so many people, what they do is that they access their emails from different laptops. Sometimes they'll access from their own laptop. Sometimes they access from a different laptop. So whenever they do any kind of a laptop, a Google will give you a hint saying that, you have signed in from a different part of the location or different laptop. Did anybody observe that?
Yeah, it will send a pop-up to mobile.
Yes. So that is also in the background. Your graph database will help you to do the fraud detections. Okay. For these kind of things, IP address based solution, because your name will be directly or indirectly linked with your graph database on the mail side. So that is one of the use case. Social networking sites, most of the social networking sites like Facebook and other things, you can see, right? Friends will have friends will have friends. Again, it need to manage so much of catalogs in the background for your managing persistent data. There also this graph database is used. So all these are the possible use case to have this graph database. So this graph database is a service which Amazon using Neptune database service. now you will ask me, sir, do I need to create this graph database and work on this? Means this is not for you people. A person who is mostly into a development background, a person who is mostly into database background, and he want to get into the full-fledged of database, for those people, this Neptune or this kind of database will be useful. Understood?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is about your Neptune database. So graph database is nothing but Amazon Neptune, which is built for the relationship, as I told you, social networking, recommendation engines, fraud detection. These all are the possible use cases which you can use for your, Neptune database. These are the different companies who are using. Netflix is using, Thomson Reuters is using, Siemens is using, AstraZeneca. I think we all are getting Covishield vaccine from this company also, right? So
Yeah.
we are using it. All these are the different companies who are using this Neptune database. So as I told you, the Neptune is nothing but which is a high performance graphic, graph engine, which is provides you the communication between your use case between your storage on the backend, which uses your database management system for the communication. This is a high level architecture. So it's a distributed storage architecture where the data is getting replicated and backend the storage has been managed for your Neptune graph database. So it also supports read replicas and high availability. So all these are the different use cases which you have for your graph database. For us, it is not required. Just for an idea, suppose in interview somebody asks you, that's the reason I have added this. So, but for us mostly will be RDS. RDS matlab, we have two things. What is that? One is called as
Relational database services.
Relational database service, no non-relational database service. So you need to be most focused on RDS like MySQL, Aurora, Oracle, all these databases, or DynamoDB or NoSQL databases. This is more important than your Neptune or other databases. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you have the overall knowledge on the database. Now our major topic comes up with three important things, which is one is called as Route 53. Second one is called as ELB. Third one is called as auto scaling and CloudWatch and SNS and SES. See, these all services are interlinked. Everything are interconnected with the concept. Okay. Route 53, load balancer, auto scaling, CloudWatch, SNS, SES, your EC2, all are interconnected topics. If you know Route 53, then you should know load balancing. If you know load balancing, then you should know auto scaling. If you know auto scaling, then you should know CloudWatch. And if you want to know CloudWatch, then you should know notification. Everything is interconnected. Now, how does it is interconnected? So let us take one example of a project, then you will understand. We will take an example of a project called as irctc.co.in. I hope everyone knows about this website. How many people know about this website?
Yes, we know it, sir.
What is this website is all about?
Railway booking.
Railway ticket booking reservation, right? So this is the example I can give you for your auto scaling or your load balancer, one of the best example. Okay. Now, before coming to that, first you need to understand DNS in
So
general.
it would be always down, Samir. I mean, like it's not a good example.
Right. So
Yeah.
before going to that, okay. That website will be down. That I understand. But that website requires our AWS service, which they are not using it. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Now, what is this DNS? Okay. So why do I need DNS? And why do I need DNS? What happens if I don't have DNS? Okay. So let's assume that what is DNS? Domain naming system or domain naming service, right? So DNS is very, very important piece in our, networking or in our day-to-day use cases or of our web server, right? So when you deploy a website, right, whenever you want to access, right, you will be only accessing with the IP address. Let's assume you have one server and you have, let's take, this is my server. So let me put a question here. How can I host a website in AWS is the question. Can anybody answer?
Static website.
EC2.
EC2.
EC2 we can host a
S3.
static website.
Very good.
S3.
S3. Okay.
Tomcat.
Okay. Then
Containers.
very good. Then
Orchestrators.
apart from it, containers, S3, EC2, any other places in AWS we can host?
By hosting on Tomcat.
But again, that is also where do you
Like that comes on EC2.
EC2.
Elastic Beanstalk.
Very good. Apart from it, where I can host a website in AWS. What is this called as? Lightsail. Okay. Lightsail. All these are the platforms where I can host a website, right? So before that, let's assume that I want to host in EC2. So in EC2, which is nothing but either which operating system? Either Windows or Linux. Linux means anything. SUSE, Mandrake, Open, Ubuntu, Amazon, anything. In Windows, any server operating system. 2012, 2019, 2016, whatever you want. Now, in top of this operating system, what is that you need to install? So
we need something to host that, right? Like on top of that.
Yeah. So let us divide into the layers. Base layer will be your
EC2.
EC2 hardware. Top of that, what will be there? Operating system. Operating system. Win or Linux, right? Top of that, you have Apache or IIS, right? So like this in general, if you're going with Windows, if it is containers, the concept is little changed. But top of this Apache and IIS, you will be hosting in the file. Here, content. Here you will be using var or www root. You will use to host the files, correct? And this EC2 will have an IP address like 10.7.7.4 some XYZ. So whenever you want to access, let's assume this is in AWS via internet. If suppose let's assume this is the user, you want to connect. So whenever he types xyz.com, then let's assume in this you have hosted, take an example, you have hosted a website of IRCTC, let's assume, okay? But when the user want to access, what he will do, he will go to the Google Chrome inside this and he will put, what he will put? He will put irctc.co.in. The moment he puts irctc.co.in, what will happen? It should go to this particular server. But how this computer will know, about this irctc.co.in, right? So, and how this irctc, when the moment you type irctc.co.in, how this computer will know that this irctc.co.in is this server and this is using this IP. So there are so much of in the background, there's a lot of thing which you need to understand about DNS, how DNS will work, right? So whenever you want to host any public, there are two types of websites are there. One is called as public website and private websites. How many? Two types. One is called as public website and second one is called as private website, right? So let's assume, Vikas want to host a website public. Public means what? From any computer, from any laptop, from any mobile, from wherever in the world, any corner, the moment he types in the browser, he need to be able to access it. Private means what? Only in his organization. It is not for all the people. So I'm not worried about the private, because private is only for their organization. They can create locally. So let us not think about it. So let us think about public websites. Public website means what? People who should access anywhere in the globe. So whenever you want to access a website from anywhere in the globe, you need to have something called as public DNS. So basically, what is this DNS? Domain name system. So basically it is what? Name to IP and IP to names. It will try to convert what? Name to IP and IP to the names. Okay. So what exactly this will do? Domain name service or domain name system is that it is basically what it will do is that it will distribute an hierarchy system where it will map the names to the IP addresses and IP addresses to the names. So it is basically, in another way, it is like this. You know that we used to have a book called what is that initially, telephone directory. In everyone house, before we used to have telephone directory 10, 15, 20 years back. I don't know how many people had, but I had telephone directory. So whenever we used to want to know, before we never used to have mobile phones, we used to have small landline phones. So what we used to do, if I want to dial telephone directory, we used to see and we used to search the number. Do you remember? Which will have the number and the name of that particular organization, right? So DNS is like a telephone directory, right? There are 4 things majorly involved when you configure the DNS server. Basically, the 4 things will happen. There are 4 DNS servers involved basically while loading a web page. So whenever you type www.xyz.com, in the background, there will be 4 things which will do, which will work for the DNS. One is called as DNS recursor. Okay. Second one is called as RNS. Basically, we call root name server. Third one is called as TLD. And fourth one is called as authoritative name server. These are the 4 things which happens in the background. Okay. One is called as DNS recursor. Second one is called as root name server. Third one is called as TLD name server. Fourth one is called as authoritative name server. DNS recursor. The recursor can be thought of like, basically you might understand. So what exactly it will do is that it is like a library, as I told you. So how it works is that it is responsible to do the request. Means whenever any request will come, like suppose example, you are typing abcd.com, that request will be captured with the help of recursor. And name server, root name server, what it will do is that it will translate that names, basically host names to IP address. For example, you said abcd.com. So what is the IP address to communicate to that particular name? So it will do the translation, basically resolving human readable host name into IP address. So it will check the library, where is the details, and it will find out where is the location, and it will try to map it to the IP address. Then third one, we have something called as TLD name server, basically called as top level domain name server, which is nothing but a library where we have a huge rack where you have all the books. So it will search for where is this name and where does it belongs to. So like, for example, abcd.com. Okay, ABCD, there are so many ABCDs are there. Which ABCD this fellow belongs to, means this belongs to India, UK or Germany. If it is India, where does he belongs to? That part will be done by TLD name server. Fourth one is authoritative name server. Final name server means basically what it will do is that it will see where exactly that record has been registered, means where is that name has been registered, whether it is registered with GoDaddy, whether it is registered with some XYZ company. So that will do. So basically the idea here is that all these four are nothing but to validate your name communication. For example, if a user types www.irctc.co.in in a web browser, first what will happen is that a recursive DNS will do the resolving. First, in your local, every computer, every local machine, there will be something called as DNS local cache. Every computer will have a local cache. The moment you put it in the browser, its job is to resolve through the name server. Then what it will do, it will go to the TLD, top level domain. It will try for where is this domain name is there. Then what it will do, it will bring this recursive resolution. Then it will validate for the authoritative servers. Then basically where exactly this particular server is hosted, and it will try to communicate to that. So basically what will happen is that all this process from the start till the end of the machine happens through this DNS. So this DNS, we are not doing it. It is managed and maintained by, there are some global DNS providers are there. Like ISP providers manages this DNS when you buy the domain. Like for example, let's assume I want to buy some domain. The moment I buy the domain, that domain will be registered with the name of registrar. So ICANN people, Internet Corporation assigned for names and numbers. In that, the moment you buy the domain name, it should get updated in the global DNS server. So there will be some global root DNS servers will be there across the globe. So in that DNS server, these names should be registered. And once the names are registered, they will follow these 4 parameters to communicate. What is the 4 parameters? One is recursor, one is root name server, one is top level domain, fourth one is authoritative name server. This happens after the registration of your domain name. After the registration of your domain name. Now you will ask me, how do I buy the domain? Where is the process to buy the domain? So you can go and buy from anywhere, wherever you want. So let's assume I go to google.com. So if I go here, google.com, let's assume you want to buy a domain name. I'll go type GoDaddy. So GoDaddy is one company who will sell the domain names, right? You can buy the domain names. It is time period is there, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. It cannot be permanent. It can be permanent as long as you're paying every year. Renewal is there. Let's assume you want to buy some domain name. So take it as, Samir Babu. Okay, I'm just putting. So the moment I type samirbabu.com or .in, whatever it is, it should come up like, it is available or not. So it will search. So you can see, right? samirbabu.com. It is available. Exact match. samirbabu.in. It is also available. If I say only Samir, so if it is available, it will say yes, it is available. If it is not available, see, it is saying samir.com is already taken, but they have a broker who can help us to give this domain, but by paying how much? 8,879 rupees. So every domain you need to find here, and if you find it, you can buy and you can renew it as per your requirement. Any domain you want to buy, you can buy it. So once you buy, there will be amount will be there. When you say add to cart, it will give. For example, let's assume Lotus Sam. So I just given a name called Lotus Sam. Let's assume I want to buy this. I will say add to cart. So the moment I create an add to cart, it will add it in the basket. So you can see, right, .com 2 years, how much it is costing me? 1,248. So if I want to go for 10 years, if I say 10 years, it will give me that 9,640. Continue to cart, and if I say continue to the cart, and it will give me the details. I need to put my card details, and I say buy, right? So then again, it's asking me, do you want domain protection, other things and all. If I want, I can say continue to cart, and I can pay. The moment I pay, then I will get that domain name. So what they'll give is that they will register this domain name under me, means, in my account, so that this Lotus SAM, no other people can use it. So it will be only belong to me. So whenever I want, I can use it, and I can host that, because that ownership of that particular domain belongs to me. So what they do is that this name, they will block it, and what they do is that this name authorization, they'll give it. Okay. And you can host wherever you want. It's up to you. Whether you want to go with GoDaddy, you can go. You want to, hosting is different. Buying a name is different. There are two different things are there. Okay. So you need to remember, you just bought the domain, and hosting is nothing but space when you buy. So for example, let's assume that I have one more, accounts. So this is my colleague's account. So let's assume that I want to buy GoDaddy. Right. So I will sign in, and my products. If you go here, you will find the, let's go and say sign in. Okay, I think it will. So I'm just logging in. So you can see here, right? So you can see here. So here there are so many domains are there. So these are the domains which are there. So we can use these domains, and we can host it, right? So only you will get the name. For example, this you can see here. There is a name called Colossal Developers. So this is the name which we got. So if I say manage, I will get into that domain called colossaldevelopers.com. So what is the purpose of this colossaldevelopers.com? This is basically, this is the domain name, Colossal Developers. So you can see, right? So this is the domain name, you will get it. This is, you can use it as your personal. So this name cannot be used by anyone. So if suppose if I go and type new incognito window, so GoDaddy, same thing. And if I type the same name, it will say that already somebody is Colossal Developers. So if I say, it is saying, right, somebody has already taken. Now if you say, see how you can, if you initiate this request, this fellow will contact behalf of this company, and they will ask us if we are ready to sell. So that is how it will go. So you got the domain name. Once you got the domain name, and you can start, using the DNS, and you can, host it. So here Amazon is providing you the DNS for this name, colossal.com. And these are the name servers. Right now, this name is registered, and all the DNS will maintain something called as records. So what does this mean? What does mean by the records and all? So DNS is basically like a registrar, like, where he will manage all kinds of records. So how you have, when you right? When you buy a property or a land, how do you have these records? A kata, B kata, these katas are there, right? What is the purpose of those things? Which is nothing but which will tell you the identity of your land, right? Same way, every DNS we have certain kinds of records are there. In DNS, there are different types of records are there. If you see here GoDaddy is giving you a record. A means address record. CNAME means what? Canonical name record. NS means name server record. And SOA means startup of authority. Basically, this is also one more record. Like this, there are so many records are there. MX record is there. So many, records. There are so many different types of records are there. Mail records are there. If you go here, can you see this? Different types of records. Text record. MX means mail exchanger record. SRV means service record, right? And CA, pardon?
Pod A.
What is that? I didn't understand what.
Pod A record.
Yeah. A record means address record. Okay. All a record. This again a record which is used to connect to domain to a website. So address records. So these are the different types of records are there. Every DNS has the records, right? So DNS record types are these all are for what list. If you list the DNS record, there are so many. These all are resource records. We say address record, right? And IPv. So you might understood what is the difference between a record and a record. A record is basically IPv4 address record. And if you want to do for the IPv6, we generally do it for 4A's record. A record is basically for the IPv6 address. Then we have CAA, which is mentioned, right? Do you know what is that CAA? Citizenship Amendment Act? No, it is Certification Authority Authorization. Okay. The record name is Certification Authority Authorization. That is one record. Okay. SRV, service record. Then TXT, text record. Then MX, mail exchange record. Then CNAME, canonical record. And A record, address record. Right. These all are the different types of records are available. There are so many other records are also there. DNAME is there, LOC is there. So many other records are there. We are not worried. These are the major records which are used. So whether you go with any kind of a DNS provider, these all records will be available. So DNS records are nothing but which are instruction to your authoritative name server. Means whenever you add this record, it will be a job to the name server what he's supposed to do, right? So DNS is nothing but registrar. In the registrar, these all records will be there. Based on that records, that particular things will be updated. For example, I have bought a domain name called abcd.com. In abcd.com, what record you want? You want to use for the mail purpose, then you need to create MX record. You want to host just a website, address record. You want to create some kind of a service name, SRV record. Like this, you need to create different types of records in DNS, right? So this is the public DNS. Now you will say that, sir, what is that in there in AWS where you're saying DNS? So in Amazon, this DNS, domain name service, in AWS, we call it as Route 53. What we call? Route 53 in AWS, in Amazon. This DNS name, we call it as Route 53. So what is the port number 53 is meant for? Port
DNS.
53 is meant for what?
Port number of DNS.
Yeah. So Route 53 is also a DNS. Okay. So basically, this why they kept basically 53 is nothing but port number for the DNS. So why they kept Route 53 is nothing but Route 53. Basically they say. So this is there is one background history about this Route 53. Okay. So this Route 53 is in United States. This is one of the route. Okay. The national highway, how we have highway, right? This is the 53, which is the busiest highway, which is nothing but in different highways, right? In United States, this is the highway which joins all the different states in United States. So what they did is that they have added this with this particular, solution. So what they did is that this name Route 53, with the help of United States, with that particular thinking in that mind, what they did is that they are given this name called as Route 53. So basically port number is 53, it is for DNS. And the same way in United States, this is the central highway which joins multiple cities. So this is the reason they have kept this name called as Route 53. Otherwise we call it as Route 53. So in this DNS Route 53 in Amazon, you can do 4 things. What is that? You can do DNS management, means you can maintain the records, you can maintain the queries, you can create the zones, you can configure the records like public records, private records, everything. You can create public DNS, private DNS, and inside the public and private DNS, you can create the records. And second thing is the traffic management, from where the person is coming, from where he need to go, source, destination, endpoints, creating the policies, those things you can do. And the third one is that monitoring, how you want to monitoring the query of your resources, web resources, how whether it is healthy or not, how is the monitor, how the application is working, that part. And fourth one is that domain registration. If you want to buy some domain, just now how you have seen through GoDaddy, same thing. You can do everything through your Route 53, nothing but DNS. So the same whatever you can do in the GoDaddy, Amazon is giving you similar kind of a service. In Amazon, we call it as Route 53. Route 53 is nothing but DNS, domain naming service. What is DNS? Name resolution. If you want to configure any kind of a names to IP address, IP to names, then Amazon is providing you this service called as DNS service, Route 53 service. So what is DNS? Which translates human readable domain name to IP address. Just now I told you. And I also explained you about the DNS process, what it will do. There are 4 ways to, make the DNS work. What is that 4 ways to make the DNS work? I just now told you: DNS recursor, root name server,
Road server,
TLD,
top level domain
authoritative name
authorities.
server, right? So by default, whenever you configure this DNS in the background, these things will work. And every DNS server will host the record types. What kind of a record types? Address record, AA record, MX record, name server, startup authority, pointer, canonical name, text records, and sender policy for SPF. There's so many records are there. All these records you can configure in your DNS. And in Amazon Route 53, what it will do, it is in a highly available, scalable DNS service, which provides you for your resources. And in the steps to involve the DNS registration is that the moment you purchase the DNS, the ICANN will register and it will update in the root database where you can configure this DNS. And this DNS, you can create the DNS names and you can configure the DNS, so that anytime whenever the user types so-and-so.com, first it will point to the name server. From the name server, it will route the traffic. Now, how this name server will work, how to buy the domain, how to integrate that name server to the web server, how to communicate with the record, all those things we will see in our next class. Any questions?
No questions. Well explained.
Anybody has any questions in the DNS?
No, sir.
I will show you maybe Thursday. I will show you how you can do and how to buy the domain, how to host a domain live. We can see, and we can also see how to point the record, how to create address records, canonical records, and how it will work in real time. That anyways, I have purchased some domains. We can use that domains and we can utilize and we can validate it, so that you will get some idea. If somebody want to do by themselves, then they need to spend 200 rupees to buy your own domain. Then only you can test it. Okay. Okay. If nobody has no questions, then we'll catch up again on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Take
Thank you
care.
so
Have
much.
a wonderful day.
Good night.